Commander Elias Vorn stared at the temporal navigation console, watching reality fracture into 1,000 possible timelines. His ship, the Kronos Runner, hummed with exotic matter drives as it punched through the fabric of space-time itself. Another day. Another paradox to avoid. The alarm screamed. Unidentified vessel approaching, the ship's AI announced in its sterile tone. Configuration unknown. Energy signature impossible. Elias's fingers danced across the holographic controls, pulling up visual feeds. What he saw made his breath catch. The approaching craft wasn't a ship, it was alive. Scales of midnight blue and silver reflected the light of distant stars, massive wings that seemed to cut through dimensions themselves, and eyes that glowed with ancient intelligence. A dragon. A spacefaring dragon. Before he could activate weapons or shields, a voice filled his mind. Feminine, young, and impossibly familiar, though he'd never heard it before. Father. Elias froze. What the hell? The dragon shifted, and in a shimmer of light that bent physics into uncomfortable shapes, a figure materialized on his bridge. She stood barely 5 feet tall, with iridescent scales along her arms and neck, small horns curving from her temples, and those same glowing eyes. She wore strange armor that seemed grown rather than forged, and a tail swished behind her nervously. "Hello, Father," she said aloud this time, her voice carrying harmonics that suggested she could speak in frequencies humans weren't meant to hear. "I'm Sirala, your daughter." Elias stood slowly, hand instinctively moving toward his sidearm. "I don't have a daughter. I don't even have a... You haven't met my mother yet." Sirala interrupted, a sad smile on her face. "That's the problem with time travel, isn't it? Effect before cause. I'm from your future, from a timeline that might not exist anymore. Explain. Now." Elias kept his voice level, though his mind raced through temporal mechanics and causality violations. Sirala moved to the viewport, looking out at the stars. "In 17 months, your 17 months, you'll crash land on Draconis Prime during a temporal storm. You'll meet my mother, Queen Zarathul of the Cosmic Dragons. She'll be dying from wounds inflicted by the Void Swarm, an enemy that consumes entire timelines." She turned back to him, and Elias saw tears forming in those alien eyes. "You'll save her. Use your human ingenuity, your refusal to accept the impossible. You'll jury-rig your ship's temporal core to heal wounds that exist across multiple timelines simultaneously, something only a human would be crazy enough to attempt. And then, Elias found himself asking, despite every instinct screaming this was a trap. "Then you'll fall in love," Sirala said simply. "Two beings from different species, different dimensions of existence. My mother will teach you the ancient songs that hold reality together. You'll teach her about human stubbornness, about how your species looks at the impossible and says, 'Watch me.'" She walked closer, and Elias noticed details. The curve of her jaw that matched his own, the way she stood with weight on her left foot just like he did, the same habit of tapping her thumb against her fingers when nervous. "I was born 5 years after that," Sirala continued. "Hybrid dragon and human, the first of my kind. For a while we were happy. You, me, mother, living between worlds. What happened?" The question came out quieter than Elias intended. "The Void Swarm came back." Sirala's voice hardened. "They wanted to erase our timeline because I shouldn't exist. A human-dragon hybrid breaks too many cosmic rules. They killed Mother. You sent me back. Used the Kronos Runner to send me to find you before any of it happened." She pulled something from her armor, a data crystal that pulsed with temporal energy. "Everything you need to know is here. How to survive the crash. How to heal Mother. How to fight the swarm. How to ensure I'm born." Elias didn't reach for the crystal. Why tell me all this?" "I could refuse. I could avoid Draconis Prime entirely." "You won't," Sirala said with absolute certainty, "because you're human and humans don't abandon people who need help. Even if those people are giant space dragons. Even if it means falling in love with someone from another species. Even if it means fighting an enemy that eats timelines for breakfast." She smiled then, and it was heartbreaking in its hope. "You'll do it because when faced with the impossible, humanity's first response is, 'How do I make this work?' That's what makes you special, Father. That's what I inherited from you." Elias looked at this girl, this impossible hybrid from a future that might never exist, and saw himself in her. The determination, The refusal to accept fate, the stubborn conviction that problems existed to be solved. He took the crystal. "Tell me everything," he said. "Tell me how to save your mother. Tell me how to ensure you're born. Tell me how to fight the Void Swarm." Sirala's face lit up with joy so pure it hurt to witness. "There's my father." The man who looked at a dying dragon queen and said, "I can fix this." As she began explaining the timeline, showing him star charts and temporal equations, Elias felt the weight of destiny settling on his shoulders. 17 months. He had 17 months to prepare for a crash landing, an alien queen, an impossible romance, and a war against enemies that existed outside normal time. But he was human. And humans had been defying impossible odds since they'd first looked up at the stars and decided they belonged there. "One question," Elias said as Sirala finished her briefing. "Do I win? Do we stop the Void Swarm?" Sirala's smile turned fierce, showing teeth that were definitely more dragon than human. "You're asking the wrong question, Father. You should ask, do they survive meeting a human who refuses to lose?" She vanished in that same shimmer of bent light, returning to her dragon form and departing into the temporal currents. Elias stood alone on his bridge, holding a crystal containing his future, and smiled. The Void Swarm had no idea what was coming, neither did he, really. But that had never stopped humanity before. He set course for Draconis Prime,